You got a good life, Curtis.
What's the matter with you, Curtis?
I've been having these dreams. They always start with a kind of storm. Thinking about cleaning up that storm shelter out back.
The hell you want to do that for?
You want to waste money on a stupid tornado shelter?
Stewart's been telling me how strange Curtis has been acting lately.
Welcome to Screen Recaps, and today we are going to recapping the movie Take Shelter. In Ohio, Curtis stands in the rain, confused as it seems like motor oil is falling from the sky. However, it's just a dream, and the actual weather is lovely. Curtis then has breakfast with his wife, Samantha, and their deaf daughter, Hannah, before heading to work at a construction company. Samantha, a housewife, sews items for the local fair. That afternoon, Samantha hosts a play date. A friend notices Hannah with a dangerous piece of wood, prompting Samantha to intervene. Heavy rain forces Curtis and his coworkers to stop work and head to a bar. Later, Curtis drops off his friend Duarte, who comments on Curtis's life, but Curtis admits it's not perfect. The next day, clearing trash to protect Hannah, Curtis experiences another storm, and their dog, Red, attacks him. He wakes from this nightmare, feeling unsettled. Distracted at work, Curtis is haunted by the vivid dream as blackbirds fly ominously overhead. Curtis asks Duarte about the flock of blackbirds, but Duarte hasn't noticed anything. After extra work hours delay him, Curtis arrives late to Hannah's parent-teacher conference. Muddy and stressed, they learn essential sign language, which Curtis needs to practice more. Later, rushing through the rain, Curtis and Hannah crash their car. Men appear, break the windows, and kidnap Hannah, but Curtis wakes up screaming, realizing it was another nightmare. Feeling unwell, he tells Samantha it's just a cold, and insists she goes to the fair with Hannah. While they're gone, Curtis builds a fence around the doghouse and locks Red inside. Distracted by a storm shelter door, he finds the key and explores it. That evening, Samantha asks about Red, but Curtis is vague and gets absorbed in news about a gas leak. The next day, Curtis sees a man outside, panics, and hides with Hannah, only to wake from another nightmare. He covers his bedwetting, asks for the doctor's number, apologizes to Samantha, and insists she goes to church. After she leaves, Curtis cleans up. Curtis takes Hannah to the library, researching mental illness while she reads. On their way back, they buy canned food, making them late for lunch with Samantha's family, who judge him for missing church. That afternoon, Curtis cleans the storm shelter and stores the food, reading his library books there. Later, Curtis sees a doctor about his sleep troubles and nightmares. The doctor prescribes medicine and suggests seeing a psychiatrist. Meanwhile, Samantha gets insurance approval for Hannah's hearing operation, and they celebrate over dinner, though Curtis hides his medication. The next morning, Curtis feels better, but hears thunder at work, despite clear skies, causing a panic attack. After calming down, he buys a container to expand the shelter and visits his heavily medicated mother, worried he might inherit her schizophrenia. Unable to travel for psychiatric help, Curtis calls his doctor for an alternative, deeply concerned about his mental health. That night, Curtis calculates the cost of transforming the shelter into a bunker. The next morning, he secretly takes out a home improvement loan. At work, he asks Duard to help him take equipment for the bunker, and Duard reluctantly agrees. Curtis visits a counselor, sharing his fears about his mother's schizophrenia and his disturbing dreams. The family attends a school meeting, and on the way back, Curtis sees lightning no one else does, heightening his anxiety. On Saturday, Curtis and Duard work on the shelter. When Samantha returns, she argues with Curtis upon learning about the loan. Curtis avoids giving her answers. That night, Curtis overdoses on medication and has a seizure. Samantha calls an ambulance despite his protests. Afterward, Curtis confesses everything, promising to seek help. They schedule Hannah's surgery for 6 weeks later. At work, Curtis asks his boss to reassign Duard and buys gas masks, which fuels Samantha's concerns as rumors about Curtis spread. Curtis is working on the shelter when his brother Kyle visits, concerned about Curtis's strange behavior. Curtis insists he's fine and asks Kyle to take their dog, Red. During a stormy afternoon, Curtis dreams of Samantha soaked from the rain, staring at him and considering grabbing a knife. At breakfast, shaken by the nightmare, Curtis pulls away from Samantha's touch and notices Jim outside. Jim fires Curtis for borrowing equipment illegally and suspends Duarte. Samantha slaps Curtis and leaves with Hannah upon hearing the news. Curtis visits his new counselor but leaves, unable to start over. Samantha sews for extra money but has to use their vacation savings. She tells Curtis they're canceling their beach trip, postponing Hannah's surgery, and insists he see a psychiatrist and attend a school dinner. At the event, Duarte confronts Curtis, leading to a fight and Curtis snapping, declaring a storm is coming. Later, Curtis sees Hannah in the road, protects her from falling birds, and runs inside as a siren wails. Curtis wakes up to realize the siren is real. It's raining heavily, so he rushes his family to the shelter. After locking the door, they put on oxygen masks and fall asleep, waiting for the storm to pass. Hours later, Curtis checks the door but still senses the storm, so he goes back to sleeping. In the morning, Samantha wakes him, asking to open the door because the storm is over. Curtis insists he can still hear it and makes Samantha touch the door, but she feels nothing. Panicking, Curtis refuses to open the door and offers the key to Samantha, who declines, saying Curtis needs to confront his fears. Gathering his strength, Curtis opens the door to a sunny day with neighbors cleaning up. Later, Samantha takes Curtis to a psychiatrist who prescribes more medication and recommends time away from the shelter. The doctor advises a few days off before Curtis goes to a specialized facility for recovery. The next day, the family is at the beach. Curtis and Hannah build a sandcastle when Hannah signs storm and points at the sea. Samantha sees it too, as rain turns to oil and a huge dark storm approaches. Curtis turns to Samantha, who nods, confirming she sees it as well.
I thought I was done.